Hello and welcome to episode 473 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and somehow I try to make it through every show without these two cracking me up, because joining me, as always, is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And the man who's surrounded by, well, we can't say what he's surrounded by, but we did read it on his pen.
Yeah.
Just his pen. And it's Tony Esmond. Hello.
Hello from Penn Island.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you've had a good weekend of comics. It's been quite warm in the UK, so we're suffering.
Yes,
and things have been happening that you'll find out about soon enough. I've just noticed that it looks like Captain America's thrown his shield through Dan Butcher's wall.
It's my son's bedroom. It's a very small Captain America shield in the wall.
Is it like a light?
I just thought it's far away.
It is a light, yeah.
Nice.
Doubles up as a light.
Wow.
Very cool.
Really stirring stuff. As always, you expect from this show.
This is what they tune in for.
This is what you tune in for every week. But if you did tune in to hear about us talking comics, then you're in for a treat, because it's just the three amigos this week. Woohoo! Meow, 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 meow. Come on, chaps.
You know what we are?
Get excited.
We are set against the backdrop of a dangerously changing global climate.
Yeah, that's true.
We are, and it was warm today.
Yeah.
That's why I've got my arms out. But you'll never see that.
Yeah, you've got they call it a wife beater in America, don't they? That type shirt.
That's just being very stereotypical. Actually, no, isn't that supposed to be white? This is like a dirty grey.
Yeah, because you've been gardening, you were telling us.
Yeah.
Do you do like the bend over and you cut down jean shorts in front of the missus and go, hello? Yeah.
Come free at the side.
Every hour there's a Diet Coke break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Pop one out the side, keep it cool. That is a good piece of advice.
No, Tony. Especially with this summer, you'll burn it.
Especially with the tight shorts you wear.
Oh dear! You know what else cuts off the bloodstream?
You know when those at Amazon sale, I'd like to scroll through at trousers. Why do people wear trousers like that?
What?
Like really tight
stupid.
trousers.
Why
up your leg?
What you were looking on the Amazon Prime sale for trousers? Oh, did it happen? Did it happen again? Did you need some? News?
I needed some more salmon chinos.
Salmon chino sounds like a 70s rocker.
Somebody did accuse me of wearing chinos yesterday. It may have been 4p. I went, no, they're jeans, and then sort of everyone reached down and felt my legs.
Wow.
So it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what else is an absolute winner? It's our lovely sponsor, Global Comics.
Yeah.
The place to go for digital comics. We love them. We read them on there every week. I've been reading quite a few sort of collected volumes. You know,
You've been reading some saucy stuff. You've been saying,
some saucy stuff, which I immediately thought, this is too much for my sensitive eyes. Let's give it to Tony. But also, like some of the issue ones that I've spoken about in the past, there's now collected volumes on there. So I've gone back.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah, so that's been interesting to check out.
I know they sponsor us, but genuinely, it's such a great service. There's so much on it. It's really good.
Some would say there's a huge library of titles available
to read. Yeah.
Some would say that.
From thousands of indie creators to hundreds of publishers like Image, Boom, Tokyo Pop, TKO Studios, Source Point Press, Mad Cave Comics, Humanoids, to name a few. And the catalogue is growing all the time. What have you checked out this week, gents?
Well, allow me to ask you two gentlemen who you think is the hottest artist out there at the moment.
Oh, God.
Who's the coolest, the one everyone wants to be, also the nicest dude in the world?
Oh,
Mike Simmons.
Almost, although he's close to the top for me.
Dan Panosian.
Daniel Warren Johnson.
DWJ.
Yeah. Gotta be in it. He's like fucking... He combines being like a massive talent with being a massive star with being like a really nice dude.
Yeah.
Like mine. Well, you can go and read Space Mullet on there. It's just dropped as a whole collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing about that is not only can you listen, you can read Space Mullet, you can go back, and that's what we interviewed him about before he became the name that now is DWJ. We had him on, I'm going to say year 2 of the pod, somewhere around that time.
Yeah, I think around that time, yeah.
Well, I'll dig out the episode. And he was lovely, wasn't he? And then he's always been lovely whenever we see him. Down to the fact, like, to Cliff high-fiving him in the street when we were in Charlotte a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, just...
Yeah.
Go and read Space Mullet. It's early work of his, but... I mean, early work of his.
I mean,
work of others.
If someone came out of the oven fucking perfectly baked, it's just sort of like it's been consistent, hasn't it? It's just the scopes. Dare I say the scope's gotten bigger, but Space Mullet's got pretty fucking epic scope.
Opens on that massive spaceship. It's just beautifully told. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, limited colour palette, everything like that. Yeah, really good.
And if you're a Warren Johnson fan, then there's loads of stuff on Global Comics.
It may be one you just missed, and it's only just come out as a collection again, I think. I can't remember looking through now.
I got the trade first time around, I think.
Yeah,
it's come out.
I think it's hard to find after that, wasn't it? But this is day date, so it was on the shelf in Gosh when I was in there yesterday, and it's on Global Comics.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of unsure how he was going to do with Transformers, but honestly, that's one of my standout comics of the year.
Yeah, for most people. Yeah,
it's absolutely great.
So good.
Got brought up yesterday a lot. Talked about it during the day.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice. Maria Lovett. You think who's that? Well, she's a Barcelona-based creator, and she's got various titles on the app called Porcelain, Eros, Stroke Psyche, Faithless 2, and Luna, and they're all coming from Boom Studios or Blaze. So there's absolutely wealth of independent comics from small press and indie creators on there, as well as some of the big boys. So it's worth having a browse around on. And
places
Global.
like a Blaze as well. They have like the translated versions, don't they?
Yeah.
Is it a Blaze? Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah, they do that as well.
The Sumerian and stuff was originally
they did quite
European.
There was 2 issues on there of Geiger that I hadn't read before. I think
it's the sort of origin story issues, isn't it?
Right. Okay. So
they came out before the current run. But they've just dropped on GC.
They just dropped on there, so I'm going to have to... it's called Geiger Ground Zero.
Yeah,
I'm going to be reading that.
Yeah,
same creative team and everything. It's really good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And there's so much more. You can read that, as well as following creators, setting read estate filters, a reading list. If you haven't got time to read an enormous volume now, you can set it to read later, and it's in a lot. You can set your own libraries and stuff, and it sends you updates about the comic series you're reading or the web comics. They've got loads of web comics there. I just started trying to get I call it the webtoons model. It is webtoons.
Vertical thing,
vertical scroll.
I can't quite.
No, I can't get my mind around it. But I was like that with manga, though. Do you know what I mean? So it took me a while to get my mind around manga. Yeah.
But I can see, especially reading on the tablet, that I would get used to it. So, So there's loads of stuff like that on there as well. And if you happen to be a creator yourself, you can publish your digital comics for free. There's loads of great tools for indie creators. Help with publishing, marketing, and more. So just get on it, people. If you want to read some good comics.
They've changed the front page a little bit, haven't they? So where it used to, I don't know if it's the same for you, but where it used to be the second line after the things you're currently reading was like new things that have come up from people you follow or companies you follow. That's gone. So if you can't find that, what you've got to do, you've got to press on notifications and scroll through that, and that brings up, if you're following Dynamite, all new Dynamite issues will come up on there. Yeah, so that's how I'm doing it now.
I've got fucking loads. Every time I go on there, like the notifications, there's loads. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I get about 20 emails off them a week, I guess.
Yeah.
I've turned off a lot of the emails because I'm terrible at deleting them, so it'd just be jamming up my inbox.
Yeah, he'll never find the saucy ones otherwise. So if you want more information about this and the app, which you can get in the Apple App Store or Google Play, go to Global Comics, that's comics with an X.com. And you can read free comics as well if you want to try it. Just try it.
There's loads of free comics on there you can read, so you can always check out the service and think if it's for you or not.
And thank you to them, as always, for sponsoring the show. And listening to this bit, probably to make sure we haven't made a complete ass of it.
Boom, become the Antichrist. Speaking of that, more of that coming later.
Yeah. But first, an epic event happened just yesterday as we were recording, but obviously it's Monday as you're listening to this, or it could be whatever day of the week or whatever month. But as we were recording, Tony's still recovering from QVention, aren't you, Tony? Do you want to give us a little wrap up, if you can, if it's legal?
Yeah, just to be that bloke. I am so tired. So, for those that don't know, I stayed over Friday night and Saturday night in London to do QVention and meet up with Cliff. And my voice still hurts from laughing so much at QVention. And then went straight off that, got home today, went straight to an office so that me and Falp can do all the boxing and flesh and ink enveloping. So it's been a non-stop weekend. Yeah, so it started off in Spice of Life. In fact, it started off before that because me, 4P, Dale Thorpe, and John Otway, clearly we all know about John, they met up in a cafe for a bit of breakfast. So we did that, and then we went to Spice of Life, and it was literally in there because we met at 12:30, so it was a good 5 hours of drinking for people. I mean, starting at 12 was maybe a little early.
Yeah.
It was like, but a lot of people don't drink soft drinks, as I understand it now. I thought everyone did, but some people were just drinking pint after pint. You know,
No, I'd be on the floor for
Oh.
5 hours drinking.
I'd be broke.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you would be in London, I tell you. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we did, but I thought I'd do just a checklist. I think it's just under 20 people. So big shout to Cliff and Liam Cumber who were over. So this was the event that honoured the arrival of the Messiah that is Q Cumber. Nothing to do with QAnon for those that are new listeners, and wasn't really a convention either. It was just a lot of people in a pub. So we did that. The two Zacks were there, Zach Cobb and Zach Cahill. They're not related. They don't really know each other very well, but they both called Zach, so we called them Zach 1 and 2. Both great company. Simon Russell, who brought along some paper and pens again, like he did last time. Everyone draw. If you go to the Slack, or if you go to a lot of the people who were there, have taken pictures of all their art they were drawing. And the thing is, we had this like big central table in the pub. Everyone's sitting around it drawing. And a couple of times I looked up and there'd be like customers in the pub who were sort of just walking around, like a couple were walking around just looking at all the art being drawn and going, nice. Yeah, this sort of thing. Who else? So Sam Arthur's turned up, our buddy Sam. Troy was there. He was great company. Gareth Hopkins turned up. Tim Meekins, who's a buddy of mine. Falp and 4P, as I've mentioned, who are great company. Dave was there. John Otway. Honestly, MVP for the day. I was absolutely crying at one point, laughing at him. I couldn't stop laughing. Chris Geary and his buddy Gareth, they came along. And Ajax from the Slack. It was nice to see there was 3 or 4 people there who we've never met before in person. I haven't really been on Drink and Draws or been on the show or anything like that. But they just sort of popped along, and like I said, like we said on the run up to it, if you come along, you will be welcome, and you will chat to people, and you'll have a laugh, and you'll be part of the crew by the time the day ends. And I've had a message off a couple of them, people I've never met before. Yeah, it's lovely. So after that sort of heavy drinking, some people were eating. Sam said I'm just going to pop in for one, and then I looked at him and he was having another pint, and then I looked at him and he says, "Just have a half." He's saying that, and he said, "I should be getting my hair cut." He's doing this. I've been told to get my hair cut like that. Anyway, it's that sort of day, which is encouraging, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was hilarious. And then we all decided about 5:30 that we're going to go to Gosh. Now, the combination of booze and buying comics never works well for me.
God.
And so we all sort of, I think like 15 of us piled into Gosh.
Tony,
just started,
no, we're not going to ask for a number.
Yeah.
Was it 3 digits?
No, it wasn't this time.
Okay.
Ooh.
No. Yeah.
Blimey, you really were drunk.
High 2 numbers, but it wasn't. Yeah. I didn't pick this up because it's too heavy, but this arrived in the post today. Have you seen this?
Oh wow, that's a chunker.
From the Pompidou Centre. They've got that exhibition at the Pompidou Centre.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the art from it.
Comics 1964 to 2024.
2024, yeah, with a Mobius cover. Beautiful. I'll talk about that maybe in a couple of weeks when I've had a proper digest of it. But
nice.
Yeah, it was good. And then we all went to Bruno's basement. Now, this is down to me. I'll take this on the chin. Like, I hadn't planned a restaurant because the thing is, I put it in the Slack, who's coming along, and some people said, yeah, I am. Then people said, no, I'm not. So we were going to. Do you remember we were going to book a room at one point above a pub?
Yeah.
I thought there's not enough people to do that, and nobody's been. But then, of course, on the day, people just turn up, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, and you can't chase people. Say, are you coming or not? Because it just puts people. It'll put me off.
Put me off. Yeah.
So one couple of people, I said, "Oh, we've seen you tomorrow, Geezer. You're right. A bit of that you can do, but you can't sort of say, right, who's on the checklist? You can't do that." So we're stuck in Soho at like 6 or 7 o'clock, and where do you go to get something to eat in a busy Soho on a Saturday night? You can't guarantee anywhere. But I knew this cafe had a basement. It's like almost like a secret basement. John Otway said it's a bit like the bit in Goodfellas where he goes down through the kitchens. It's like that.
Yeah.
And so I knew the geezer in there. So Falp and me went in, and he said, "Oh, no problem. Come downstairs." So we got and said, all the chairs are on the table. So we had to lift all the chairs off the tables. But we literally had the whole of this cafe basement to ourselves. Or as some referred to it as the murder basement. Because you sort of went there. It kept going downstairs, through the kitchen. It's like that. It just went on. And then suddenly you're in this sort of this place. So we all sat in there, and that became another just non-stop laugh, piss take. Everyone had a meal, and then we sort of all stood out in the street, as you do, all stood out in the street for ages, and then we all sort of disappeared off. But yeah, it's good.
Oh man, sounds awesome.
Proper good day. Also, one of the big things for me was it's the first time all the tribute boys have been together. So me, Daryl, Adam, Cliff. So the four tribute members, and we had like a nice photograph. And my mate Dave had a proper like camera he uses on TV stuff, and he took a picture of us all in that. And yeah, it's good.
Oh, that's fantastic! I'll get that printed up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But we had to do a bit of I had to do a bit of the social butterfly. You know, if you can pick anyone in the world who is not a social butterfly and is not the sort of person you want to send around a room of people to see how they're enjoying themselves, it's probably me. And but I think it went all right because I think people kind of got the taste of what our humour is. Do you know what I mean on here?
Yeah.
So you go around and go, "Oh, you're a bit of a wanker, aren't you?" And they know immediately that I'm joking and I don't mean it. You know what I mean? I did have me and Troy and Gareth did have a long conversation about sexy nuns.
Excellent.
And sexy SS officers, both of which fall within our remit. We decided,
you
know. So yeah, it's good stuff, man. Chris Geary drew. He sat there and drew a Vampirella, just on this big bit of paper. Fucking gorgeous. Yeah, I was chatting to him and it's amazing Vampirella. You get Vampirella from the hairline. I don't know if you've ever seen this that sort of little gap in her hairline. I've got one of her comics here. Let's see if it's So you see that little gap in the hairline there.
Yeah.
That's so her.
The little bit of the fringe.
Yeah, sort of parted a little bit. Yeah, so he did one of them, and that was one of the ones I saw there was a couple of old timers in there. Do you know what I mean? Like with their glass of wine. Oh, waiting to go to the theatre, going, oh, look at this. You know, it's like that. It's we were right by the door, so everyone who came in was like, we saw a couple of people come in and go, oh fucking hell, and then go somewhere else. Classic West End pub, though. I said, I need a table for about between 12 and 15. And they said, oh, we've reserved you this table, like a circular table for about 2 people. I said, well, that's no fucking good. So we just picked up the sign that said reserved and put it on a massive table in the middle of the room. So I've yet to check about my deposit where I'm getting it back, but we'll see. Yeah.
We was all in there drinking and spending, you know what I mean?
I know, man. Yeah. Must have been hundreds, if not thousands of pounds spent. And people were eating as well, you know, it's not, you know. Yeah. Nice. But it was worthy of the visit of the Messiah.
Awesome.
Liam's a good lad, good kid. Although he is, I think, 6'9".
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Because I look up at Cliff. He
towers over Cliff. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. I met him in Russell Square on the Friday for a bit of lunch. And he told me he was arriving. I did that classic, stood behind a tree. Right with dark glasses on, right until they almost got to me, and then I stepped out from, you know, fucking like Halloween. And then Cliff went, oh, he always does shit like that. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Good day. We'll probably the next event, I guess, we'll probably have. We might have something around to Christmas, but will be the 500th. Which will be the end of January. Yeah. So I think I'm going to have to start booking that.
We're going to have to have. We've talked about it a little bit, but we're going to have to kind of start firming dates up.
Yeah. Questions. I'll tell you a couple of the questions about it that people had about it before, after we record. But yeah, I think there's a lot we should do for that one. We've got a few plans in the irons in the fire for that one, haven't we? So, so that's good. But yeah, definitely everyone was just. Do you know what it is? It's like I'm not. You know, people don't have the same politics. They don't have the same background. They don't have the same opinions. They don't have the same love of comics. They don't like the same things. You know, and yet you've got a load of people in the room all of whom get on. That's the best thing about it, man.
Yeah, it's great.
And we proved the point that everyone was welcome to that. You know,
just having a laugh, having a drink, just drawing, talking comics.
Yeah, lovely talking comics. You know,
that's what this show's always been about. That's what the Drinking Draws are all about. That's what all our events are all about. You know, if you come along, you will be made welcome. So,
and I think we're probably going to have a drink and draw at the end of this week.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, so I'll probably talk about that in the shout outs, but something to organise that.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, cool.
So yes, that's what you get. And if you want to find out more, like sometimes when these events happen, or you know this sort of general talk, please do get in touch with us and join the Slack community. Great group of people. We say it every week, but there's a lovely group of people on there. Loads of different channels and stuff. So do get in touch. If you haven't used Slack before, it's easy to. You know, just join that.
I have to say, I didn't
just for this community, I would do it.
Yeah, I didn't quite keep up with it, to be fair, because like everyone's arriving and I'm trying to speak to everyone, and then I was chatting to Troy for about an hour, and I looked at myself, so I got to quick check this, and I went, "Oh, hello, Troy. I've seen you just arrived." In message, he said, "I've just arrived." I'm sorry, I only just saw that, mate. So
that's the thing about any kind of event. It's the same like with like Comic Cons and stuff. Once the ball's rolling. sometimes you're unaware of like where you are sometimes or what the time is. It just passes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. It really did on that one. Yeah.
I mean, because we're not professionals, we're just kind of three blokes talking about comics on a podcast.
Yeah.
So
this is the most
obviously we're millionaires through this podcast, so that's fine.
Yeah, clearly.
I can't stop it now, can we?
That's why I hired
Reliant
the
on the
Sun
money.
to shine all weekend.
Oh, I thought you meant the newspaper.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to hire them for anything. Anyway, let's
Daily Mail, isn't it? Daily Mail.
Yeah. That's where the truth happens. Don't quote me on
You know
that.
where you know where you are with the Daily Mail.
Mail Online.
Yeah, you do know where you are with the Daily Mail. That's what you're going to say.
I think, do I need to show you the pen again?
No. But what we do need to do is talk about... We've got a couple of different topics. You know, every time we have an Awesome Comics Talk episode, which is, you know, that's what they go under, the banner that goes in when us three just get together. We always... Sometimes we think, oh, what are we going to talk about? And then topics and different things just crop up, don't they? Like different suggestions. I think, Tony, do you want to start off?
Should we start with the sort of longer one, which is the one we floated? So I'd like to preface it by saying, set against the backdrop of dangerously changing global climate. I think that's obviously important that we preface it with that. This has been quite a nice discussion on the Slack, actually, about... So what I've said is, no thinking about it, no fucking arguing, no deliberating. Who are, of all time, your top 5 companies, top 5 comic companies? Yeah. And... it's been really interesting, and I think it's like the old thing. If you ask somebody their favorite movie or the favorite novel they've read or something like that, you can tell something about that person, can't you? By their tastes, their choices. You know, we can divine about people's comics, loves, hates, history, favorites, stuff like that by saying what their companies are. Yeah. Also, their age, I think, is an important thing. Yeah. You can tell what the age of people is sometimes.
Yeah,
and it does. It's an ever-changing. Sort of.
Oh, mine's changed twice already. Yeah,
mine's radically changed. If you'd have asked me 10, 15 years ago to now, I'd be completely different.
I think the thing is we've got to see it as all time.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll probably get to that towards the end of this, won't we? Or amidst it somewhere.
If it's all time, the top one is easy.
For us, it's easy to guess, isn't it? I'd say. It's in the hinterlands that is more the interesting stuff, I think.
I can't really sort of put mine in any sort of real order, I guess. But there is the one that if I was to sort of say, oh, I am this, deep down, this is...
Well, let's do that one first, shall we?
Yeah.
One of you guys want to say it? So what do we think? We've all discussed it. Number one, our favourite one, the one that we it's almost like the parents to us, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It is Marvel Comics.
Marvel.
Yeah.
I think it is for me, and I think that part of that is the distribution model in the UK. They had Marvel UK, which was a massive thing for me growing up. Yeah. They really put their arms around the UK up until Captain Britain, and then Marvel UK, so the John Freeman and the Paul Neary did. But I think they've always looked after us, and that history of Marvel is more ingrained in me, speaking for myself, than DC.
I would say so. I will preface this that obviously this is keep the conversation going between yourselves, and whatever your particular choices are, you're absolutely right. That's the beauty of this. This is just if anything, this is a question that will allow you to look back, think about the things that made you such a comics fan and a lover of the medium. I love questions like this because we go back and think about what. The good times. It's strange to say it like that, but it really is. It's the comics that made us. And I think part of the important thing of a question like this, I think the number one is usually the one that happens when you are almost like, rather than it just being something you read when you were a little kid, for instance, it becomes, being a comics reader becomes something that you are, and a comics lover. That developmental stage of reading, which can happen not necessarily when you're a kid, it can happen at any stage of life, but it's usually whatever the comic was and the company that it all clicks. The moment that the medium clicks with you and those things that resonate with you, and it's usually tied into, what is your favourite publisher, I think. And for me, Marvel was the one that I was always drawn
yeah.
to.
I think you're right, and I can't remember who was saying it yesterday, but this came up as a sort of point of conversation about that, the imprinting on you at a certain age as well.
Totally.
So the sort of 12 to 14 age is a time where everything's going on, but you know, an emotional impact of a comics event, a comics page, comics art, comics character really affected me at those ages. And the things that we've talked about this before, haven't we? We talked about, I think it was Dave and Falp I was talking to. The imprint and the nostalgia that we have reaches back to that period. So I'm rarely nostalgic for things that I read in my late 40s. You know, you can't. It's not really possible.
No.
But in my 30s, I was nostalgic for things that I read when I was 14.
I think it's also because the stuff that you're reading at the later age, there's been a development of your reading, and whether your reading has broadened or things like that. So it's
we're more cynical as well, man. I think
totally.
You know,
yeah. And I think no matter what age you are, you know, the comic that gets you into comics is the best comic ever. It doesn't matter whether we like it or whether anyone, you know, likes it or dislikes it. If you like it, that's all that fucking matters, isn't it? At the end of the day.
I mean, for me, like some of those FF Kirby pages are burned into my retina forever.
Yeah.
You know, the thing standing in the rain, it's just, I can close my eyes and it's there. It's not even just trying to remember stuff, it's there behind my eyelid. You know, and there's a lot of stuff for that for us, you know.
I
Also,
think the visual. No, you got that.
No, I said the lot of stuff material that when I got into the Marvels, like maybe in sort of the 80s, it was just fucking absolutely this surefire. So well done, everything about them. So, and you don't think, oh, rose tinted glasses, perhaps, but there's a lot of the storylines we're going back to and looking at are from that kind of era, and they're just bangers. It's really
there's a visual dynamism to their character creations, like what the figures look like obviously when I was a little kid in the 80s and stuff, and I sort of developed in the 90s, you know, with the X-Men, blah blah blah. But before that, when I couldn't get my hands on those Marvel team ups or anything like that, you know, I just couldn't. There was nothing to be had. But you know, something like Spider-Man and Friends, the cartoon, and then you get the Secret Wars sticker album, or you're seeing things because they were in the zeitgeist, because they were in the media. A Spider-Man, the classic Spider-Man outfit, for me is probably the greatest superhero costume of all time.
It's amazing.
It just hits you immediately. And like, whenever, it always feels like they do 1 billion different versions of that suit, but there's only one that will ever really work. And when I loved it, when it hit me, and I was like, this is amazing, it had already been around for fucking 20 plus years.
Yeah, it's such a classic design, isn't it? Even when they tweak it a little bit, people go, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The thing is, I think, as well, I can't speak for kids these days, but for us then, certainly for me, that was all I had. That and novels and 3 TV channels.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I wasn't even watching television because I was at boarding school. So it was sort of, those comics were read and reread. And
because that's the only thing we kind of had. It was like that. Or
it wasn't called media then.
No,
it was just what we had.
These days, kids will be halfway through a comic, if we're lucky, and they'll be distracted by, you know,
there's
a reel they've been sent by a
stuff
kid or something, you know, or just everything is just like flashing about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had a really great quote by someone the other day about the buzzing and flashing of life. You know, and that is now to an extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is just seeing some of the panels. Like I said, I rarely got my hands on like a comic. Certainly never a comic run until I was, you know, into my early teens or anything like that. You know, I didn't have anything like that. But I was reading stuff published by one of my other picks later. But the Marvel stuff was always, you'd see a poster, you'd see a panel. I remember there was I think it was like a double, because it was all like reprints, wasn't it? It was usually the large. That's how I discovered a lot of stuff. The one that was in the larger
a lot of us did,
As certainly as we've spoken to. Get ready to ring the bell. When I discovered the Punisher, that was the UK reprints. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that was an undertaking, you know. And but even then, before the Punisher was like a sort of like, what the hell's this? Because by then I was so ingrained with what these characters were. And yet I hadn't read. If you came up to me at that age and sort of said, what's your favourite run? You know, what's your favourite story? I couldn't tell you an arc. You know, I couldn't tell you anything. I just loved those characters. And I think that's the importance of characters for these big publishers, and never mind what they've become in terms of IP. I've pushed all of that aside. The characters are what
they've got a place in our heart, and they definitely.
Yeah.
You know,
If
Marvel, especially for me.
Yeah.
The current run of that Punisher we didn't like appeared first in one of those oversized things. Would you reckon you would have carried on reading? I think I probably would have.
The art would have kept me through on that
Yeah,
one.
I would have kept. Or the art would have kept me.
Yeah,
As a
yeah.
12, 14,
Well, I would read
15-year-old
anything
kid.
back then.
Yeah.
You know, I would read any old crap back then because we had so little of it.
Yeah.
That would have been crap you would have been reading.
Yeah.
But man, like I said, the UK reprints, and we talked about it a million times, but it was where Frank's in Rikers Island.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know the Punisher, but then at the final page, it's full page splash of him putting the suit on. I was like, I'm fucking in here. This is fucking ace.
It's almost produced the man that you are now.
Yeah.
Oh, without a shadow
in many
of a doubt.
ways.
Move on.
Yeah. So Marvel, I think, it's the lifeblood. You know, it's always they'll always have a soft spot, and that's why I think.
That's why it breaks our hearts.
It's a nostalgia medium, and of course, people love to complain, and I certainly fucking just love to harp. I mean, on the WhatsApps, these two have heard me fucking whinge about this, that.
But the thing is, we're allowed to complain about stuff.
Yeah.
I hate these people say you shouldn't be complaining about it. What? No.
Yeah.
I can.
It means more to me probably than a lot of the people who are creating.
It's not as good as it used to be. I mean,
there's a lot of it that isn't.
Yeah.
There's some that is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
But a lot of it that isn't. Yeah.
Can I segue into the two from here?
Okay.
For me, it's going to be DC.
Me too.
DC,
I've written a note. I've written a note on here saying massively fallen on hard times recently.
Yeah.
But if you factor in that Vertigo as well, you cannot deny the effect of comic storytelling it's had. I mean, Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, this sort of thing. It's just massive.
For me,
even like Superman, for God's sake.
If you go into a restaurant and said, "Can I have so and so steak and chips and Coke?" and they'll say, "We ain't got Coke. Is Pepsi okay?" That would be if I go into the shop and I want Marvel.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've got sort of their characters didn't initially really appeal to me because they seem so outlandish and not
a little too straight-laced for me sometimes.
I will say, also, like I say, discovering these books with the reprints, and the collections and stuff. Where I was, the reprints of the Batman comics were always easier to get hold of.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
They weren't for me.
Those sort of A4 kind of size
A4 ones,
the ones that was
the superheroes.
Yeah,
that sort of format.
When he had the blue cape and the yellow.
Was it a Jim Aparo kind of?
It was
Neil Adams.
Neil Adams. Yeah.
Neil Adams.
You know that sort of cover where he sort of that splash page where he's sort of doing that. Which you can't see audio.
They're sort of printed on paper with staples. You look at it wrong and it fucking falls apart.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, they're not because they're so interchangeable now, Marvel and DC, aren't they? With creators and artists and stuff. But I think for me back then there were a bit more the sort of crew who wore a tie into the bullpen, who wore a tie into the office, where Marvel seemed to be more the sort of I kind of knew they were doing LSD. You know what I mean? Bronze Age wise. I hate to say that because I'm sure some of them were as bad as each other, or as good as each other. But it's
if I think about it, like certainly with DC as well, what got me into DC and the stuff I liked with those reprints, they were usually reprints of the stuff that came way before my time. Like 10 years before, like the New Teen Titans and stuff like that. Which that became one of my favourite team books of all time. Just everything I was caught up. I just fucking loved that.
It's a great series still, man. I read it. I bought an omnibus for that recently. It's great.
And I didn't, but I was never really a Justice League reader until seeing some of those reprints, the Bwahaha, and I think when I properly started reading Justice League and when the American-sized comics, it was Justice League Europe, Bart Sears and all that.
Yeah, I was reading
that.
That was
I think it's on Bart Sears' Instagram today. The thing is, for me, it's because I'm older than you. It was like I think the real draw to DC was a lot of the shops I went to didn't stock DC. It's mostly Marvel reprints, your Marvel UK, or you used to get that pile of Marvel comics that used to get shipped over 3 months later.
Yeah.
But when DC did turn up, I go, oh, Justice League. Who's Red Tornado? What's that about? Who's Zatanna? And these characters I hadn't really seen before was a fascination, which I think is what started my fascination with Legion of Superheroes. Because you've got like 50 characters, and you're trying to. We're all living in the world of top trumps, aren't we? Yeah. Really, we all want to know each character and what their powers are and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think that was what got me on the line to read DC, and I think also the really strange and outlandish stories you used to see in Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one where Superman was standing in front of a building that had been turned into newspapers, and you're thinking, what's that all about? Do you know what I mean? Mr. Mixelplix or something, you know, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was very strange compared to Marvel. Then there was a distinct flavour to both companies.
And
Marvel seemed a bit more straight.
Yeah, yeah. I think as well, because for the longest sort of time, and you know, there was probably business practices or whatever that stopped anyone else sort of getting to a certain point. But because it was Marvel and DC, you were one of those two camps, really. Even though you can like all of it, that there's a secret for you. But it was almost like because they were competing against each other, they were trying to one up each other. Do you know what I mean? So there was the real competition.
Oh, there was massive things going on. Like somebody heard that Marvel were putting red on their covers because they'd heard it sells. So DC decided to put red on their covers, you know, and it's like just bizarre stuff was going on like that. Yeah,
that competition sort of engenders sort of excellence, doesn't it?
Yeah,
people pushing themselves to do better than what the other person's doing.
Yeah, and then the phrase "oh, it's not a competition" came out, and I thought, yeah, it probably is when you're trying to sell comics.
I think one of the worst things you can be, or one of the worst things a comic can be, is generic.
Yeah, God, yeah. Oh,
man. You know, we love tropes. You know, there's certain cliches we love to lean into. We love to see. You know, we've talked about storytelling tropes on this show many times that we're like, yeah, I'm in for that all the time. The grizzled old veteran that's coming back to kick ass, that'll get me every time. You know, that sort of stuff. But when it's just generic, it's lifeless. And we got into these comics because they had life in them, didn't they? They had real... You know,
we can circle back to this point later about if we come onto the characters.
Yeah. Do you think, though, before we get onto the next ones, do you think having a broader knowledge of the publishing world in general affects how you see it? Because we're talking
massively. I wish I didn't know anything about these people.
Yeah, because we've got into these things. We didn't know necessarily. You don't know, when they were in the bullpen, you know, they're smoking cigarettes and arguing with these people. And we didn't know any of that. All we had was what was on the page.
Yeah. There's no industry where people make so little money but are known about so much.
Yeah.
You know, really, is there? You know, I seem to think that I know more about the bloke who writes The Incredible Hulk than I do about multi-millionaire film directors or actors. You know, the gossip and the nonsense that goes on about them is terrible. Yeah.
Why? It seems such an odd thing to have, like, why this industry of all the others? Maybe because we're more kind of, we know a few people and we can know sometimes what goes on, but like, over the socials and stuff where people just
gossip
real
sites.
kind of, really bizarre.
Yeah.
But they, like you say, T, you mentioned this for fucking years now. They're not talking about the books and characters and storylines and stuff. It's usually talking about...
That's because most of them ain't reading them.
Personal grievances and... whatever, which is a shame.
So,
I'd rather...
Obviously, the 1-2 punch, fairly obvious.
Easy. That's easy. I mean, not for everyone. If you go through the Slack, I'm not going to read everyone's, but there's a load. But loads of people are different. I mean, Rebellion comes up as a busy first one.
Okay,
yeah. And I can totally, especially with the UK scene, I can completely see that. Yeah. They weren't on my list, actually.
No, me neither.
No.
But that's not to say. This is just our list.
I mean, come next week they might be, but this is just the way I feel at the moment. To be fair.
Yeah, exactly. So our threes. This is where our roads sort of divide.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first with this one?
Shall I go first? Because mine's like an old bloke one.
Yeah, go for it.
Go on.
First comics, 1983 to 1991. Shined magnificently for a short amount of time. A relatively short amount of time. Here's some of the titles: American Flag, Nexus, Badger, Sable, Dreadstar, Starslayer, Grimjack, Elric, E-Man, Lone Wolf and Cub, Mars, Starslayer, Time Beavers, and Time Squared, Warp, and Whisper. That's not all of it. That's just some that I picked out. That, when you look at those, there's at least 5 titles there that were massively key changes in comics. Look at the American Flag. Look at the way that was done.
Yeah.
Everyone was looking at that. That was winning numerous Eagle and Eisners. Something like Steve Rude on Nexus. That art, everyone's like, fuck. Dreadstar, I know it didn't originally start there. Same with E-Man, it went over there. we had the Michael Moorcock adaptions, which are massive, and then the one that you guys most relate to, I guess, is Lone Wolf and Cub,
Yeah.
which like with Frank Miller covers, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is this? This is amazing." Yeah.
Was that on the back of Frank Miller saying, "Look, this is really good," and people should?
I'm
know
not
that,
sure, but I can guess. Stuff that he did. I think Ronin predated it, didn't it?
Yeah.
So like Ronin and stuff would have only got people interested in those books, I guess.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because he had like quite the interest in.
I know he talked about it in a lot of fantasy advertising.
The country and the culture.
Yeah.
And I wonder if his interest kind of garnered enough reader response, if you want to put it that way, to kind of think, well, okay, they'll be open to reading more of their stuff in the actual place.
Yeah,
source.
I mean, I think Mike Gold, who was the dude who was over there at first, he had an eye for quality. You know, I got to meet him at Baltimore last year, lovely guy, and he would like literally talk to people in the reception areas of hotels. He'd bump into them and go, "Are you thinking of doing something for us?" You know, and he's like that, and he would approach people. So he was almost cherry picking talent, and I think he must have seen what was going on in Japan and thought, "No, we need some of this."
Yeah.
But it was going on another one of my choices later was doing a bit of that as well. You know, a lot of them were going, "This stuff needs attention."
Yeah.
Because I think because a lot of the artists, like you say, like Miller and a lot of other people, were going,
There's some stuff over here.
you know, we seem to just be looking at ourselves.
Yeah.
We should be looking at Europe. We should be looking at Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, First Comics, massive. I've almost completed my collection of every comic from First
Whoa,
Comics.
nice.
There's a few more sort of outlayers that are in there, but I remember going to Forbidden Planet when it was in Denmark Street and seeing these comics and thinking, "Oh my God, what are these?" I was just used to Marvel and DC. What are these? And then buying a load of them. I went on a school trip once. I think I wrote about it in Madeline. And I dashed off to the Forbidden Planet.
You did, I remember it now.
Yeah, part of that was buying a load of First Comics, and I can still remember them now. I still see them. I still own them. Yeah,
Man, it's great when you
stuff.
Get keyed into another. If you're big into superheroes, then you find another superhero universe where there's loads of comics in it. Like, mate, this is fucking great.
And it wasn't a complete shared universe, but people did cross over. In fact, there was a miniseries called Crossroads. So Badger and Nexus crossed over, then Dreadstar met with someone, and Whisper met with someone, and there was a bit of that. And a lot of these characters still, I mean, there was a Nexus comic on the shelves yesterday. Times Squared has just been re-released, the Shaking book. So there's a lot of this stuff that's still in our vision, still available to read and buy. But some of it is really difficult to get hold of. There's some of it you can only buy as back issues.
Right.
Yeah, Sable, I think, for example, Time Beavers, you'd have to go and find. Warp, which is the most bizarre thing, was a real hippy-dippy, we were talking about this on the stat the other day, a real hippy-dippy stage play that lasted for about 3 performances, about like a sci-fi opera musical. And I think it's Peter B. Gillis said, "Oh, right, I'll make that into a comic." It's just like Lord Cumulus, Lord of the Clouds. And, it's just this weird thing. In the period when they were making musicals like The Apple and the Who musicals and this sort of thing, it's just bizarre. But it worked. It really worked. Can
you give us a rough idea what Time Beavers? I can imagine Time Beavers is about beavers that go in time.
It's literally that's what it is. Okay. They got little space suits on, hairy faces, big teeth, and they travel through space. Tim Truman.
Was that like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of inspired?
Not as on the nose as something like Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters or anything like that, but I can imagine, it probably came off the back of a bit of popularity of Turtles, Usagi, etc. Yeah, I can imagine there was a bit of that probably. Yeah, but it's a beautiful comic. It was one of their big graphic novels. So in the same way that Marvel were doing those graphic novels, like they did the New Mutants, Death of Captain Marvel and stuff like that, First Comics did something like that as well.
Okay.
Some had a sort of manga influence. You had Time Beavers. You had a few different things. People were playing about with formats quite a lot back then, which was quite interesting. So, for example, the Crossroads series was all prestige format, which is the Dark Knight Returns format. Really interesting stuff. The good thing I liked about them as well, and this is harking back to our sort of OCD Marvel thing, is they had the old checklist. So you could see what was out that week. Yeah. And you see, Dynamo Joe 1's out this week. Oh, I wonder what that is. And then I'd sit there thinking, when can I get Dynamo Joe? When can I get Dynamo Joe? When can I get... it's like this. And you just... it's just... I was so receptive to it all. E-Man was brilliant. E-Man literally took the piss out of everything. They did like a... I can't remember the name they used for it. They did like a Dark Phoenix comic. Just as a piss take. I got to speak to Joe Staten about that, and it's just glorious, man. Like all the people in it, Mike Grell, Jim Starlin, all these people were top of their. I mean, Grimjack by Truman is just this inky, beautiful early Truman. Almost looks like an underground comic. Just beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. There you go. I'll stop ranting about that now.
No worries.
First comics is my third one.
Reminded me of that checklist of like, you remember when those Impact did that relaunch when they had like the Fly Black Hood? I was on like that with all of
the
them.
Jaguar.
I had to elbow a few. I couldn't keep them all on because they were like another 6 or 7 fucking.
Yeah, you had the Web, you had the Comet,
Shield.
Fly. Shield. Yeah.
Black Hood.
Was one called Cougar?
It was like the lady who transformed into kind of like a jungle cat.
I can't remember which was one.
I think it was.
Was it Cheetah? Was it? Okay.
I could be wrong.
Maybe in my head, I think it's called Cougar.
Web. Did we say that?
Yeah.
We said
the
that,
Web.
yeah.
They were like the secret organisation, weren't they? When they tried to reboot that, Red Circle when they bought Red Circle back when DC had them, they tried to reboot them again, didn't they? They've had little periods where they've tried to get them going.
The Fly
again.
was fun. That was just basically just like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steranko covers on one of the Archie Comics did the Red Circle thing. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So, what's your next one, Dan? I wonder if it marries up with mine.
My Image.
Yeah, thought so. Yeah,
okay.
That's mine.
Almost made it on the list for me.
Mine's Image for 2 reasons. What I was massive. I think Vince and I were both massively into it when the whole Image revolution hit. When all the creators kind of left Marvel thinking they could forge their own path, which they did, and then to what Image has become nowadays with being a publisher and putting out so many fantastic books, just of people we know, and just generally the quality coming out of Image, of the choices, it's just great. I'm just really enjoying their output.
I think for me, like obviously, as you say, Dan, like hit by the Image when it first came out, that boom was we were all in that. Well, a lot of people were caught up in that bubble. But probably if it had kept going down that route, maybe this wouldn't be on my list.
Totally. They would have burned out.
At all.
Yeah.
Would have, burned bright and then faded away.
I mean, Image has been at least 3 or 4 different companies over a period of time. And different approaches.
And I've sort of witnessed it changing initially through previews. Seeing, like when Valentino stepped on to... I remember when he was picking a lot of stuff and you saw a lot of... That was when Badger came into it and, you saw that... And it was like, well, what's happening here then? What's... You get like some old veteran creators popped in, did an Image book. They published their work through Image for a bit and then popped off. That was Valentino, wasn't it? When he
could well have been.
Valentino did take the reins.
Yeah, and that was when you saw a lot more, like I would say, smaller press.
He was more called a small press indie, and he would do wacky.
He was into
books,
the underground, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's a lot. I mean, he's a good 5-6 years older than the rest of them, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he did have that can reach back into the underground. So I think
he was always an odd choice to me, but to all of them gonna. Fuck off, you know what I mean?
I actually think Shadowhawk is very different from a lot of his style done previously or done in other ways since. Yeah, very different. It was almost like a straighter thing he was doing. He knew where the money was. I guess.
In the office, and they're like McFarlane, Lee, Liefeld, we're all going, and Valentino, who?
Yeah.
I suppose because he was on Guardians, wasn't he? In Guardians a lot of the time.
Yeah. But obviously he brought those ones in, and like you say, it changes over time, and then like. Now we're at a point where...
Well, we had the period of the writer, didn't it? It became a company for writers. People like Rucker and people like that.
And now, obviously, we're getting all kinds of unique, like... Images will be my number one go-to to see what's coming out.
It almost feels like it's ideas-driven now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The idea of you go to them with a pitch and saying, this is my story, this is the art team I've got. And it's like, well, mate, that's fucking great. Like, let's put that out.
But I think that's being copied a lot as well. I think that's been not copied, but replicated by people like Mad Cave.
I think it's clear
like
to reiterate this as well. We're not talking about whatever business practices or whatever publishing contracts or whatever. We're just talking about the comics themselves and whether we're enjoying them. That's right. I mean, I would probably say that Image all time because of how many... I mean, right now it's my favourite publisher. It has been probably... I mean, the amount of times I've mentioned an Image book that I've discovered on this show, it's just endless, infinitum.
We just read one, didn't we? We just read a new one, second issue, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yesterday or something.
And even like it says a lot that, for instance, Ghost Machine, this new sort of imprint that we're all hugely excited about.
Well, that's where I think they've changed into almost a newer company again, this overarching umbrella company now.
Yeah. where there's a kind of seems to be a safety for creators is a weird thing to say, but you know what I mean, when you have like this ghost machine unit that maybe 10 years ago maybe would have tried on their own to do something, and maybe it stumbles and falls, but to have an image behind you, that little eye in the corner changes the game, doesn't it, really?
Call me cynical, right? And be
cynical,
suspicious, thank you, suspicious and conspiracy theory led, but I kind of think we've got stuff like Skybound, and we've got stuff like Ghost Machine because of the unionization of the image, or the attempts at unionization of the image staff. So they almost make themselves standalone, away from those people.
Oh, so you're thinking they saw that and thought, well, we're not signing
we
up
don't
for
really
that.
want to be fully into that, but we do like the model of, creator owned.
Because you look at, like, for instance, Ghost Machine. I think that's a good point, Tony, because you look at Ghost Machine and Skybound, they are also, entertainment is the word that's used, because you go onto the website and you're seeing all the other things that the plans and the tie-ins, but
they're also on the image site as well. There's this sort of strange
that
whole
thing with the union was fucking terrible. Like, just they didn't have any kind of plan, and they wanted a kind of a say in editorial matters. It's like you don't get any input there, and
it's not your job.
You literally, like you said, it could potentially have shit people up, thinking, "Fuck me!" If they get the ability to kibosh my book, and they're just the print production guy. I don't want any part of that.
Yeah. It takes the power away from the publisher when you think that it's become a democracy onto what book they print or not. Yeah. We're not even a democracy.
But there's no way, like, you'd get that. Like, say you'd have a coffee shop. It's like, we're not selling coffee beans in Nicaragua because of X, Y, Z reason. It's like, well, you don't get a fucking say in that. You either serve the coffee or you get to find another job. It's...
But
this is the reason I never worked for Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
I mean, image on my shelf... There's an awful lot of, like, the image down the spine.
Yeah, Millerworld's another example of that, isn't it? On the image model, and now they've moved to Dark Horse.
Yeah,
it works on its own. Yeah.
So that was an easy one to add to the list. It's when it gets down to the later numbers that it really sort of becomes, how am I feeling right now?
Yeah.
So let's go to our next one, Tony.
Mine is an easy one, and one I'm not going to dwell on, but we talked about it 2 weeks ago. It's Valiant. And I class Valiant as three separate companies. I class it as the 90s shooter late and onwards. And it got a bit lost towards the end of that period. And then we had the Dinesh period.
Yeah.
Sort of referred to it.
Strong point. Yeah.
Then we had the sort of fallow years of the Chinese takeover. The involvement of people like Antos and stuff like that, which kind of sort of buried it. It became one issue a month.
Yeah.
And now I refer to it as the third incarnation, which being the Alien Books period, which I've got high hopes for, and I'm touch wood. I hope they
seem to be doing okay at the moment. I want to see what happens when the event book comes around.
Yeah, I picked up another 2 books of theirs yesterday.
Do you want to see those voices coming through? Not so much the voices previously, but fair play to them. They want to finish off those storylines. So
I just like the fact they've said that thing about, we want to get new readers, but we also don't want to turn off the old readers.
Yeah, mate, that's what it's about.
Everyone needs to say that.
You want to give a shit about your readers. That's like number one priority.
Yeah.
Take care of the readers you got. You know what I mean? Not the readers you want to have. It's, It seems
but if you tell good adventure stories, people will come to you.
If you build it, they will come.
Make good comics. People will come.
I think that's a good shout. And listen to our recent episode about Valiant.
Yeah, please do.
Can I go my one now, V? Dark Horse.
Oh, fucking hell, Dan. Stop reading from my list.
Is that the same one as me?
Prick.
Same as you. Because when I was kind of getting to the point where I was like, I'm growing up a little bit, and I'm still reading the superheroes, but like, I want to see what else is out there. Vertigo, I didn't really go into too much. I was like, okay, I grabbed the odd issue, and I was like, that's not too bad. But when I was getting into like Hellboy Sin City, I was just like, mate, this is it. And at the time,
Aliens and Predator, I guess.
Yeah, well. Aliens and Predator, Terminator.
For me, Aliens is what started me on Dark Horse. That was it was a friend having an Aliens issue, and because you knew Aliens, you knew, like, what is this? And then I discovered like Sin City later and Hellboy later. Okay. But it was like those sort of the tie-ins. I was never really a Star Wars reader with Dark Horse, but that was just because how I felt about Star Wars anyway. I just I wasn't into it really at the time or now. But it was those sort of tie-ins that I'm usually not a tie-in person, but like some of those painted. I mean, Dan, you had a collection of the Dark Horse stuff, wasn't it? That was reprinted recently. Seeing some of that back in the day when that came out, and like the painted one, I kind of never. It's burned into my brain, the painted one where there's this guy he's got like a military dress suit and he's got like a cap on, and I remember when an alien tongue goes through his head. And he's surrounded by aliens. I think he's got like a chainsaw or something like that. There was something crazy. It almost felt Warhammer-like in some ways. I was like,
they've got like numbers painted on their heads.
Yeah, I was
the
like,
alien
what the
xenomorphs.
fuck? Yeah, and
it was great.
Yeah, and it was so good. But then Dark Horse were a thing in my world.
But no, they were very different when we had Dark Horse Presents and the aliens and stuff. They were an immensely different company back then to what they are now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I never read Dark Horse Presents. I always went for the titles, like when there was the Conans and all just
some of the titles would spin off from Dark Horse. I mean, obviously Sin City and there's a few things. I know they brought it back, didn't they? Dark Horse Presents.
And I remember
about
there
10,
was
15 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't read too much of it, but I remember getting to like some issues and stuff. Do you remember when they did that universe, the one that Barbed Wire came from?
Oh yeah,
Barbed Wire.
Some of that was quite good.
That was that was
very
Dark
short-lived.
Horse's attempt to be like sort of like, okay, let's create our own universe for this, until it was like it felt like, oh no, that's not the company we are.
Yeah,
we've got this.
I feel like they're doing it in Malibu, they're doing it cross-gen, let's do it. Yeah.
So for me, Dark Horse will always be in this list or resonating near the top. The top 5 because of the legacy of it. Do you know what I mean? And
it almost made the list for me, and the main reason is the Dark Horse universe, the Hellboy universe.
Yeah,
I think the thing is, if you just took that and made it its own comic company, it would be almost on the list on its own for me. I think the thing is because it's so well done.
Yeah,
every artist they use on that is just fucking class. It's got this overarching sort of family of titles. The only thing that puts me off is the fact that all the covers look the same.
Yeah,
it really gets to me. I have to literally take a picture of my shelf of all my BPRD, Hellboy, Dark
Horse. Which one you fucking got.
So when I go to the shop, I can go, oh, that's 15. And then, of course, they brought out these softback omnibus kind of things. And you're like, well, what does that contain? Oh, no, I've already got 4 out of the 5 trades in that one.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's just so confusing.
Dark Horse make a fucking lovely printed book, though. They've always been.
They do, yeah.
For me, they've always been one of the standouts for the printed collection and things like that.
But they're bumping up for me to have, because we all cry out for these sort of consistent trade dress, don't we?
Yeah.
We love a consistent trade dress, don't we? For whatever it be, Invincible, whatever it is. But then, if it looks so similar, you're standing at the shelf scratching your head, thinking, "What have I got out of this?" Yeah.
I've often bought comics where the covers look so similar, and then you get them. So, how fucking we got this? But I couldn't tell because. The images are so interchangeable.
Abe Sapiens, bad for that.
Yeah.
I can remember, got a cool memory of being at a Comic-Con and buying the SimCity trade of the first run with Marv, and then getting issue 2 of Marvel's, the Alex Ross painted one. And I can remember being on the bus home looking at one and the other, and I was like, these are both comics, but one's like this harsh black and white, and the other one's like full painted.
One silhouette of boobs.
Yeah, and I was like, man, these are still. That was one of the moments I was like, I fucking love this medium. I was really just.
Yeah, and like for me, Dark Horse will never be far from that list because the first Aliens versus Predator book is one of my favorite graphic novels of all time. So.
Yeah.
Job done. That's that. I was like, okay. Well, that fucking nailed it. Yeah, I've got thoughts about what came afterwards, but that singular first story it's a Mount Rushmore for me.
Have we been fucking beat for beat so far?
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah. It's because we sleep together.
Yeah.
So this is this,
true.
but this
don't do much sleeping.
He does.
He's in me now. But this is where the roads truly do diverge, because I'm pretty sure that, and I'm playing fast and loose with the rules of this one because I don't necessarily. Yeah, but let's start with Tony. What's your
fifth? This is our final one, isn't
it?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a weird one, and this is the one that jumps in and out of my list. Eclipse.
Okay.
Just a very strange one, and 77 to 93 ish. And it's not without its controversy. Miracle Man, for example, was a big one. But it's one that never fails to surprise me with the breadth and difference in what it published and what it put out. Now, that may not be from an organised point of view, it may be from many things, but it's also the one that I'll be at a comic mart and I'll go, oh, I've not seen this Eclipse comic before. That's only 50p. It's like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Here's some of the list from the list. Saber, which I'm a massive fan of. I think it's beautiful. I mean, especially the Galassi stuff. DN Agents. Did you ever read that?
That's a great title.
The name always stuck out to me whenever I saw it in previews.
Miss Tree, which is obviously the best name for a comic. Zot.
Yep.
Was great. I've got the trade of that here. Aztec Ace, which is Jean Day. Crossfire. Axel Press Button was reprinted from Warrior. Axel Press Button and Laser Eraser. Alien Worlds. Sunrunners, which is Broderick. Pat Broderick, I buy anything by him, and that was beautiful. The Rocketeer. That's another groundbreaking comic. Masked Man, Detectives Inc., which is great. Gene Colan, Don McGregor. Scout, which is obviously has become a bit of has always been like a universal, like a lifetime favourite of mine until the Kickstarter's now 6 years out of date.
6 years.
New Wave, which was their attempt to do, I think it was bi-weekly comic series, superhero series.
Yeah, is that like the Brand and stuff like that? Didn't they try and fold them into the Marvel universe? I almost said the MCU there.
No, they didn't. I think you're thinking
of the face for that.
I think you're thinking.
Who are the Next Men? Is that the ones? Is there?
That's Dark Horse. Dark Horse. That's John Byrne. Yeah, John Byrne. I read the first trade of that the other day because I bought a signed copy of it for Cliff at Charlotte, and while I was waiting for him to arrive, I read it, and it's very strange. It's a lot stranger than you will remember. Okay. Yeah. Also, which character first appeared in Next Men?
Oh God!
Pop quiz.
Is it Dark Horse?
Yeah.
Character?
Which? Yeah.
Was that Hellboy?
It was. Yeah.
Wow,
if you've got
really?
that issue, if you've got that issue, it's worth a few quid. Yeah.
Wow. I don't have that issue.
Airboy came back. Quite a nice little run. Really interesting. Tom Yates does some of that. Espers, Valkyrie, which was the Galassi drew that. Hotspur, Prowler, Winterworld, which came back at IDW a few years ago. Which is, I think, if anyone would like that, it'd be you, Vince. So it's post-apocalyptic, but in a snowy world.
Nice, I like that.
Really nice. Swords of Texas, but loads of manga as well. Was it Area 88, Rai the Psychic Girl?
Oh man, I remember that. Yeah, I remember Area 88 and My the Psychic Girl.
So we were talking earlier about grasping that manga thing, like we did with Lone Wolf, but they did that at Eclipse as well. They had a sort of erotic area to their comics as well. There was financial irregularities towards the end, and the two publishers divorced, and it was all a bit messy. But it's just a really sort of evocative of that age. When I see that little eclipse symbol, I've got a T-shirt with it on actually. That little eclipse symbol in the corner of a comic, I think this is going to be very different. There's some really different stuff going on in this. It almost felt like if heavy metal became a comic company sometimes to me. Yeah. Okay, that's my one. There you go.
Interesting. Dan, do you want to go with
mine? Be brief, and it was because it introduced Usagi Yojimbo to me, and that was Fantagraphics.
Okay.
I was like, some of the titles I'm sort of not quite au fait with, but man, this Fantagraphics for me, just for Usagi Yojimbo, it was an absolute revelation. I went around a friend's house, and his uncle knew he was into comics and had sent him books 1 to 3 of Usagi Yojimbo, and I just fucking wanted those books. I read them that night and then was like, as soon as I got home, I was like, right, I'm going to get that. And I did. And this obviously got Love and Rockets, Danny Klaus. They just produced so much stuff.
Up to Pisca. Pisca, I think they were the biggest selling. Red Room was the biggest selling single issue.
Completely forgot about Red Room. Yeah.
I've
got that on my shelf, actually, Red Room. I've only read it once. I can't say it was really for me, but I can understand how it's got its audience.
It's like one of those sort of VCR horror movies to me.
Yeah.
It's like it's short stories in each issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a kind of a thread that kind of goes through, like some of the characters and some stuff. But like, I quite like characters where the good guys win. I can take it when the bad guys win, but in that, it's just relentlessly the bad guys win
Yeah,
all
it's
the time.
grim. There's a weird, twisted sense of humour to it as well, which
Yeah.
is interesting. And
Yeah.
the style is the best I'd seen from Pisker. I hadn't
Okay, yeah.
really seen much of his. But also, you got to remember that Fantagraphics also reprint Mickey Mouse comics and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know, they've got all different arms to them, and they are still and have been probably for the last 10 years the comic company that the cool underground outlaw
Totally.
kids want to get published by.
Totally.
And then I would say secondary would be Drawn and Quarterly. But Fantagraphics is the one. Fanta is the one you hear people talk about in pubs at TCAF and you know bars at Thought Bubble and the cool.
But I've got to say, my
about.
fifth spot is really loose. Like the top four locked
Tight.
in.
Yeah.
But the fifth is kind of a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just trying to be cool, Dan, aren't you?
Yeah.
What do you mean trying? Well, he's fucking hot today. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So my fifth one is purely down to what the taste of my reading has become over the past few years, and it's the IPC magazines.
Like going back and buying, or not going back and buying, but buying reprints of old material. You mean?
Yeah. I've talked like a lot in the past about the battle, the weekly UK comics, Battle, Action Force, Battle, Storm Force, Eagle, things like that. All of these things. Scream, all the things that I would say this is number 5, but these are the comics that right now, when I'm going back and rereading them, they're the ones that are probably bringing me the most joy. You know, these little short, sharp weekly comic strips, sort of like just the energy in them, it's just reignited a passion for this. A passion that I didn't even have this back in the day. I'm appreciating them more now, possibly because of this show and what we talk about and thoughts on the medium and stuff. So it sounds strange to say like IPC magazines, who are obviously part of a bigger publishing company, and never mind all of that, all the history, all the publishing and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they were putting out, and they have put out stuff that, these are the ones that I go to eBay to look for. These are the strips that I'll rediscover. Doomlord now. Didn't read it when I was a kid. Reading Doomlord now is a completely different fucking experience for me. Yeah. There was obviously Stormforce, which is just it, part of my lifeblood anyway. But then, that's also where I'm reading Charlie's War. Things like that, That's where this stuff like this comes from. And, we talk about Charlie's War being what it is to comics and, like, historical fiction and stuff like that. And it has such reverence, rightfully so. And it was also being published in a weekly comic for kids on the newsstands.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's something that would not happen now. Just would not. Especially wouldn't have the run that it had, And I know I'm blissfully ignorant of a lot of like behind the scenes stuff, and when I hear about things like pages just getting thrown away, original pages being thrown away, or all of that stuff, it breaks my heart. But in terms of the end result, the comics and the work that are done, if anyone here is listening to this that was part of that or had some involvement in it, these are the comics. I mean, Tony, you've said it a million times when you go to conventions, just sort of say these classic creators that you go up and say thank you to them and stuff like that. There's so many creators especially from those UK weeklies that no one's talking about. Absolutely no one's talking about. And if you go back and pick up any one of these issues, they should be fucking talking about them because the work on display is astonishing.
And people like Lawless and Enniskillen are giving them credit now, I think.
Yeah.
But the bigger conventions like MCM and Thought Bubble should be, and they aren't.
Yeah. They're seeing. I mean, I would say it's almost like they're seen as museum pieces rather than being a relevant,
fuddy-duddy, boring.
Rather than being
these
exactly.
People could write the modern kids round in circles. Do you know what I mean?
It's like fuddy-duddy and boring. It's like, hold on, this fucking comic's got someone being absolutely fucking obliterated with a machine gun.
Yeah.
and this was a book for kids.
Garth Ennis said he learned about World War One, and a lot of us did by reading Charlie's War.
Yeah. So I think if you go to a comic mart or something like that, just pick it. You can get all of these original issues and stuff sometimes for pennies, absolute pennies.
Yeah.
Just if you see one, just pick one issue up. Because you'll guarantee, there's going to be something in there, even if it's just to laugh at the old ads for Weetabix that were printed. Even that, because it's just that's the nostalgia kick. But what I have from those books now is just an absolute. This is what I want to look at. It's what I read.
Authorship.
It's just
entertainment.
So good, so good. And so, now I'm a reader that will be like, wow, this art's amazing. Where's the name? Where's the credit? I look for the credit boxes, which sometimes you find them, a lot of the times you don't. There's all of that going on.
People complain about creator rights in the States, but we didn't. It's only down to Pat and Kev that we've got them in the UK.
Yeah.
And it was into the 80s where people weren't being credited.
Yeah. Mentioning Pat, like I was on the comics subreddit, and someone posted up martial law saying, "Look, if you like the boys, fucking read martial law. It's really good." And it was just a gushing of people just saying fucking martial law is brilliant, love it. First stuff's great. And I was like, these are my people.
Yeah.
And I said, like, if you ain't seen it yet, get Fury, go check that out.
So, I think a lot of people's perception, certainly a lot of newer readers to comics, welcome if you listen to this show. But even if it doesn't seem, just discover some of these things, because they're seen as vintage, and sometimes that word vintage has a certain connotation to it. Certainly when you talk about characters Bronze Age, you look back on that, and there are people in this world, and this fucking makes I want to grind my teeth to dust when I hear this. I won't watch a film before 1990.
Sense,
And
you're missing out.
There is that sort of mindset, and I hope you lovely people don't have that mindset when it comes to comics, because you are missing out. So
I think certainly on the Slack there's not just films actually, certainly not just comics but films as well. On the Slack people are talking about, you got Cannon talking about Toth, but also in the movies we had a big conversation about Wild Geese and Red Sun.
I've been going back and watching all the films. The one I've started watching now is the Dogs of War, Christopher Walken.
Yeah, it's a dog.
I've never seen that, so I'm like about halfway through it, and it's like, mate, some of this stuff is fucking savage. It's really good.
Yeah. So obviously, if you want to know more about my pick, then Richard Sheaf. He is He is the Don for this. Always fascinating to talk to. Is it Boys Adventure Comics? That's his blog, isn't it?
Blogspot.
Yeah. Always highlighting lots of different old UK comics and stuff like that. So he could school me on all the behind the scenes.
Mate, like if you ever think, what was that comic used to be? And you look at it, you look for it. But for instance, I'll mention the Get Along Gang once again. I'm sure if I go to Boys Adventure Comics, you'll be able to find stuff on the Get Along Gang comic.
Yeah.
Well, as we all know, we're big fans of Sooty on this show.
Yes.
And Henderson has been sending me images of Sooty surfing, stuff like that.
Seeing him with legs is very off-putting.
That's strange, isn't it? Yeah.
Very off-putting.
Yeah. Sweep
woke up in a cold sweat.
He was a hell of a drummer, wasn't he, Sweep? He's a hell of Do you know one of my best friends? His dad made the drum kit for Sweep.
No.
So when I used to go around his house, right, and look, this is Dan, my reading mate, and stuff. We would go downstairs, and at the bottom of his stairs there was his fucking drum kit, Sweep's drum kit.
Wow,
that's awesome. Yeah.
What's that on your hand, Tony?
Well, hello.
Oh, Sooty. Yeah, this is brilliant considering Sooty doesn't really talk, and we're an audio podcast.
Yeah, he doesn't mind. I'll ask him.
Sooty, I'm just going to say.
He doesn't listen.
He doesn't listen. Well, fuck off then. That's it. Get fucked, Sooty. If you're not a listener.
Do you remember when Sooty used to run and then you used to see little feet, didn't you?
Yeah, I bet your Sweep's a listener. Sweep, if you're listening, we love you, man.
He's a proper punk, and Sweep.
He's a proper gangster, that one. Sue, would you?
Definitely.
Jesus Christ.
Most definitely.
She's a right dirty bitch. Anyway, so Tony is going to do the rest of this show
with a new
Sooty next to him.
He's nodding.
By the way, he's still doing great work, Sooty. Love it.
We repost Sooty a lot because it's his birthday this week.
Yeah. I tell you what, you want some genuine wit. Some of those Sooty covers, like the fucking comedy that they do on the Sooty stuff's top notch. Anyway,
if none of the Americans or anyone overseas in the UK like wonder what Sooty is, you have to Google it. Really, you can't.
It's a little golden bear that cover his ears, Tony. He's a hand puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
If he didn't hear that.
But yeah. But yeah, that is our fave publishers. We say of all time this week.
Yeah, at the moment.
It can always change. But hopefully this conversation has got you thinking about the publishers you like and the comics you like. And, just have a think. It's sometimes good to just think back and then all of a sudden you've spent a week looking back at the old...
Yeah.
If you forgot about a publisher that you used to love, all of a sudden a couple of months go by and your wallets start to hurt. So, a great question. Now, I've got a brief thing that we're going to talk about. Not going to have a huge discussion about it.
You sent through this week, didn't you?
Yes. There was,
I bought that comic you mentioned, but it's downstairs. I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about comic covers quite a lot on this show, where the good, the bad, and the ugly. There was one particular comic cover that came out this week during my new issue browse, of which I'll briefly talk about some of the comics that I picked up this week.
I tell you, we need to bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday, we used to do pick out the comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps we could do an Instagram post of we all pick one.
Yeah.
And
that's a
then
good idea.
Post it up.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Now, there was one I spotted. It's a Marvel cover. Talking about Marvel again. It's an issue 1. Now, a Marvel issue 1 should be bombast and
not what it fucking is. Not what you're about to talk about.
Sense of excitement. This caught my eye, right? Because Marvel now have this massive issue 1 box in the top left. So I thought, issue 1. Oh, Namor issue 1. Now, straight off, I want to say that this is nothing about the quality of the artwork. This is not about what it is, right? Because looking at the artwork, it's beautiful penmanship. I can't fault.
I don't mind
the artwork.
The artwork is actually quite striking. I quite like it, but for what it's for,
I will say, whoever thought this is an issue 1 cover is out of their fucking minds. Right, and I really say, but I felt quite strongly about this, and I texted them what the fuck is this on the WhatsApp? Now, this is the new series. Jason Aaron's the writer, isn't he? Forgive me, I don't have the list of all the creators.
It's got writer Jason Aaron, cover artist Alexander Lozando, penciler Paul Davison, and Alex Linz. So we're talking about the art by Alexander.
And of course you get the synopsis. A bold new direction for Namor, blah, blah, blah. All of that sort of, what we expect from an issue 1. Fair enough. The image I see on an issue 1 is, I presume it's Namor, some bloke that's had the shit kicked out of him, right? He's in a prison
outfit. He's in ICU, isn't he?
He's in an ICU, and he's lying on a bed, right? And just everything... the UV, the drips, the IV drips, and everything looks absolutely mashed up. He's not even conscious on the cover. He's got a breathing fucking tube.
Can't see his face.
You can't see his face.
The only reason they hint is look at us being so clever. You can tell it's Namor because of the wings on his feet.
Yeah, but that's
bullshit, man.
And also that's fairly piss poor because he's covered in bandages, so I've only just picked up on that detail that you've just said because there's so many
just about
bandages.
See his trunks.
Yeah.
Under the suit. But...
Yeah. That's
what grabs the reader, Vince. I think you're being very negative there.
I mean,
the picture of a man in bed. The picture of a man in bed is what we need in comics these days.
I mean, that might work as an issue 2 or 3 or something.
Absolutely.
A 1. Maybe not. You want to
compare that to all the great number 1 covers of history, and they've decided to go with him in a bed,
laid up in bed.
It's
unconscious.
It's a bold new direction for one of Marvel's strongest heroes. So he's just got the shit kicked out of him. Then the bold direction is he's fucking useless, isn't he?
Yeah, it's good.
And I know there's story, I haven't read it. I can't comment on the comic itself.
No.
It could be great, and if you've read it and you like it, fair enough. But that cover does not work as a cover.
I picked it up for a joke. I meant to bring it upstairs, so when we came online, I completely forgot to.
yeah,
I was going to be
reading it.
sitting there reading it just to wind you up. That's the only reason I spent fucking £4.50 on it.
Yeah. How much? Fucking
I can't remember how much it was. It won't be far off that though.
No.
It is. It's a good interior panel, and it's a poor choice for a cover image. And I just don't understand it. I quite like the size of the name. Do you know what I mean? I don't have any problem with like the design or anything like that on it. It's just, which leads me to ask you, gents, when you have an issue 1 of a big character, what should that cover, in your opinion?
Got to be the character.
Character hinting at the kind of adventure they might have up.
Yeah. To me, I like a bit of storytelling, but at least it's got to show you who you're reading about.
Yeah.
Most important.
I mean,
that's what people invest in.
Yeah. I mean,
Literally.
we are critical of those covers that are the same generic hero on every issue, which is fair enough. But I think if there's a place for the hero, heroine, whoever, standing there, flying towards the reader, it's the issue 1, isn't it? That's the place for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bold new direction splash and stuff like that on it.
Because there's nothing like that either. There's not even a flash.
This first issue.
I may have said back in the day, oh, all those things covering up the artwork, blah blah blah. I mean, I probably have, even when in my teens or something like that. Now I long for those like flashes that say, amazing first issue. Just something like that.
Being a cynical conspiracy theory again on this one. Jason Aaron's mostly moved on from Marvel now.
Right.
He's doing Turtles, he's doing some stuff at Image, stuff like that. He's not really massively invested in the Marvel stuff as he had previously been with the Avengers and the X-Men and stuff. I wonder if this is a delayed title because of the controversy around the dude who played Namor in the in the Black Panther movie.
Was he did some shady shit?
I think there was something went on with him. I can't exactly remember what it was. I think it was pretty dodgy.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether the original cover had a more looking like the bloke from the movie thing going on.
Okay, maybe.
Now, I just want to read out off the synopsis for this book, just quickly. War rages beneath the waves, from the lost cities of the secret seas to the fathomless depths where the elder whales reign. 7 kings, old and new, fight to rule the watery realm. But where is Namor, the once mighty submariner? He's sitting behind bars on the surface, with no intention of ever setting foot in the seas again. So begins an oversized Atlantean event that will forever reshape the landscape of the undersea world, while at last laying bare the dark history of Atlantis and its fiercest, most infamous defender. An epic that will redefine the King of the Seas in the manner of Jason Aaron's Punisher series.
But I'm out. Bye.
Yeah, done.
Bye.
Like Jason Aaron's Punisher series. That's not a selling point.
Mate, as soon as they see that, I'm no thanks.
Yeah. Why is everything? This, I know we're not going to cover this subject, but it's something I talked to you about on the WhatsApp. Why has everything got to be fucking groundbreaking?
Oh, mate.
Why can't you just tell a story about a character?
Why
has everything got to change the status quo?
On the Slack, it's always like, oh, Batman, I want to do the next Court of Owls. I want to do this. I want to do something that recontextualizes.
Oh, his father turns up. Or he's got
all
no
the
money
Batman's
suddenly.
adventures. Or it's like, mate, just do fucking a straight Batman story.
Solve a fucking bank robbery.
Yeah.
I think J.M. DeMatteis said that. He says, why don't they ever fucking fight bank robbers anymore?
Right.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, if they want a bold new direction for a Namor series, and they probably have, Tony put me right on this. But right now, just make him a straight up villain again. Just make him a look, if you come anywhere near the sea, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like do one of those. I mean, like when Hickman got the X-Men and put them on their own fucking island and did their own thing with it. Why can't you do something like that with a Namor sort of character?
I'd
separate them.
You really got to go some to shock me about Atlantean events of the past. I'd be like, so what?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
What, they're all sort of saying, what? Sorry, Vince.
But also you put that with all the shocking history, and by the way, Namor don't want to do it anymore. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So he's in bed.
Yeah.
He's just watching Neighbours. He's watching Neighbours.
He's eating jelly.
So what I thought a more interesting cover would be, rather than see him, like, it's all about picking out a moment in action of what's happening. Wouldn't it be more interesting to see, like, medics around him fighting for his life, like, giving him the old paddles of life?
He's been put into hospital by getting a beating. What, you could easily have the old classic punch in the face.
Yeah.
There's...
But, like, if you had, like, the hospital staff trying to work on him, and he's flatlining on the screen, and his eyes are rolled back, is that fucking hell? He's dead. He's dying.
Yeah.
There's something, like you say,
put his face on it. Put his face on it.
There's a moment, there's something happening as opposed to this, oh, he's lying in bed, he's all right.
It's a very static and sort of dead image.
Okay.
For me.
Should we ask Sooty what he thinks?
Yeah.
Vince, do you want to ask him? Do you want to ask him, Vince?
Yeah, Sooty, would you buy this Namor cover? There's no need for that. I've got to edit that out now.
Yeah.
Jesus. He's got to watch himself first, son. Bloody hell.
He's in trouble with attitude.
Yeah. I love the fact this is an audio podcast, so we just asked Sooty, a silent character,
I'll tell you what,
that nobody can see.
Yeah, Sooty's been a guest on the show many times, but no one's ever heard him.
He's always here somewhere. Always here.
Yeah. Gonna get a phone call off of the City production company saying cease and desist.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to do some fan art of the three of us with Sooty, committing a crime.
Now, obviously, I just wanted to briefly bring up this Namor cover, and I invite any of you listening to discuss it. Let us know what you think, because obviously, I've got strong opinions on it. That doesn't make me right in any way, shape, or form. I just had an adverse reaction to this being a #1 cover. As Dan said, put it anywhere else in the lineup, I'm probably going to say, "Cool, what's happened to him?"
Yeah,
but I don't want that on the issue 1 cover. But that's just me being a grumpy old man. But keep the conversation going. Let us know what you think of this particular cover and why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. What's the meme of that guy by the?
Oh yeah, change my mind.
Change my mind. That's it.
Is that Stephen Crowder?
It is Stephen Crowder.
Yeah. Can I just say, for an example of a good cover, we're not going to discuss it. Go and look at Alien Books' Valiant Comics' Bloodshot #4 by Brian Level. That is a fucking cover. That's a great cover.
Brian Level's a beast.
I'm so glad I bought that OA from him back in the day.
Yeah.
Because it's skyrocketing. Yeah. I got an Adam Strange from him. I got a couple of things from him. Yeah, really nice and a super nice guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've had so much fun and time's ticking on. Is there anything else we want to discuss, gents? Before
there was a couple of other things we want, but I think we'll move them over. We'll move over.
Yeah. Because we're having too much fun, getting heated about comics, and it's getting hot in here, and we're taking off all our clothes.
Someone's nicked your sleeves.
I know. Have
you got hairy shoulders? How's it going?
I feel naked. I tell you what, I've got lorry driver arms though, because I wear t-shirts all the time. Look at that.
Sunburnt just from there
down.
Look
at that. That's an uncooked sausage, that is. That's what my arms look like. Anyway, speaking of things that aren't going to make you sick.
Like an uncooked sausage with a vein in it.
Do we have any shout-outs this week, gents?
Yeah, I've got a few. So, the Press Guardian from the folks at Green Archer is now Kickstarter. Great cover, actually. Really good. This is turning into the hotness. They've stormed it. I think it's going to be a hot little
done
book.
really well.
Yeah. Project Monsters #1, Lost Loves, is also on Kickstarter. A really good-looking comic about a hit squad founded that's formed of shape-shifting human dinosaur agents. And the art on this looks really, really sort of adventure comics, Marvel, DC style, very solid. And it could do with a little push. So go and have a look at that, Project Monsters. I really like that.
That sounds fucking ace.
It does look great, yeah. Bloodshot is back. What a creative team. This is on Kickstarter too. Eduardo Riso, Brian Azzarello, Ariel Olivetti, Tim Seeley, Miko Swayan, who's got a lot of previous on that title, Danny Earls as well, who I talked about recently in the Tops and Bottoms panel as being the current artist on The Incredible Hulk. Fucking kidding. Talk about a dude who should be drawing Hellboy. They're doing Hellboy on the Hulk, and Danny Earls is doing
brilliant.
Yeah, it's on Kickstarter. You need to go back that. Flesh and Ink, as we said earlier, we spent the morning stuffing envelopes. So for those that weren't at QVention, it will be winging its way to you very soon. There was a slight delay on it. I know a couple of people said, "Oh, you're normally like the next day." We're normally 2 weeks later, but we've had to do a couple of test prints. So apologies for the sort of month wait on this one. But it's 100 pages.
That's nothing in fucking small press.
Oh mate, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people have been really nice. So one guy reached out and he said, "Normally it's like 2 weeks later. It's in my letterbox. Did I miss it?" I said, "No, we had to do a couple of test prints because it's a slightly strange, small paperback format." And we found the stuff on the spine was slipping a bit. So we did a couple of test prints, moved stuff at all.
Fair enough.
I say Falpy moved it all about and knew what he's doing. So that'll be with you shortly. There you go, they're my ones.
Nice. Dan.
This is a late one. Peter Hogan's Black Forest, 6 stories of suspense and supernatural by the co-creators of Resident Alien, joined by some of the world's greatest comic artists. That's from Scratch Comics, your boy Shane Chebsey. That's only got 49 hours as we record this, so you're probably going to have a better part of a day to get on that one and back it. We've got Bill the Platypus, one shot. Human platypus hybrid Bill is sent to capture a strange goat-sucking beast in this standalone anthropomorphic action-adventure comic. That could do with a little bit of help. We've got another 15 days to go on that one, by a former guest on the show, Ross Radke. He does a great superhero comic, which
Spandex?
escapes me. Spandex.
Hey.
Yes, Spandex. Which you can read for free online, which is a great comic.
Great comic.
All the best ones you can.
Yes.
So,
and that's me.
That's us. But now we have to recommend some lovely comics to you lovely people. And what have we been enjoying reading this week or want to talk about? Well, Tony, do you want to take it away?
I'm going to do a quick hit, and then I'm going to do another normal one. Quick hit is Mugshots issue 2, written by Jordan Thomas, art by Chris Matthews, letters by Lucas Catoni, editor Marla Elzick. Second issue, crime mystery action thriller set in Brighton, done in that Darwin Cook Parker style, 2-color. I suppose we speak to Jordan a lot about this. It came out this week. It's also day date on Global Comics. I've got the whole book, but I really think you need to read the issue by issue on this. You really do. Don't wait for the trade on this because it's such a lovely. I think they're like 30-something pages each issue. It's a really good read, solid. I think Jordan's best writing so far, and I like Jordan's work. Opens well, and I moan, particularly me, moan about books that give everything in the first issue and then they sort of tread water till the last issue on a miniseries. This doesn't. This has a nice setup to a mystery, to a cast, to things that happen, including action and fighting, and then it takes it further in issue 2. So what Jordan and the team are doing, especially, is they're naturally feeding out the information that the reader needs in a very good way. It's hard to Get Carter meets Parker. It's that, which is just fucking so in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's great.
It's The Long Good Friday meets an American thriller, but it's really good like that. So Mugshots issue 2. The other one I want to do to start with is Suburban Antichrist, issue 1, and it's created by Dan Hughes. Issue 1 is called Neurotic, Paranormal, and Hellhound. Dan informs us, there's an introduction on page 2, where the creator Dan informs us that this is in his brief prologue that this issue was drawn on a desk he found in a hedge. That's God bless small press. Ain't that good?
Amazing.
Chapter 1 is called Everyday Hell, and it's everyone, like it's every man. A bloke, his alarm goes off at 7, lucky bastard, and he gets up. And out of the blue, whilst brushing his teeth, a demon comes up from the plug hole and tells him, objective truth is ever present, and those who ignore it will be miserable. There's a life lesson for you by a demon coming out your plug hole. Turns out this isn't quite the normal household. The wife wakes her cloven-hooved son up, who insists that he wants the blood of sluts for breakfast. Oh, we all want that, to be fair. Let's be honest.
Nice.
The husband and wife then decide if it's the time for them to have the talk. I've got an adult son. I'm sure, Dan, it's nearing the time for the talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think they mean something completely fucking different with the suburban Antichrist that they live with. The wife is also just bizarre. The counterpoint in this is the husband, in and out of different stories, it's just this sort of glasses bloke who looks like somebody out of The Simpsons, who sort of wanders around and, oh, my son's the Antichrist, oh, there's a demon coming out my toilet, and then moves on to go to his day job, whilst the wife is full-on fucking serial killer as well. It's quite cool. She lures a girl into the house with promises of Netflix and vodka, and then knifes her to death. And the husband is sort of vaguely complicit and vaguely fatalistic about what's going on, but also in a way incredulous. He's just this sort of character, suited character. And to me, it feels like a cross between The Omen with more sort of demon effects and Bless This House with Sid James. There's a bit of that going on somewhere. Turns out the Antichrist brings a girl back, and he wants to take revenge on the murdering mum. So, mum has other sort of sex and murder plans in the neighbourhood. And this is just the first issue. We've actually got the first two issues are in the emails if you can have a look at them. Brilliantly fucked up. Satan, granny fucking, slasher murders, all in that black and white underground style. I know the guys. I know that Dan is part of the group that are doing a few underground books at the moment. We had a big chat. Me and the other dude had a chat about this, about the underground movement again in the UK. And I think this is a new figure within it, something we're quite pleased about and we're quite keen on. The characters in the cartoons have a sort of almost Far Side style to the artwork.
Okay.
It's a developed style. It works consistently throughout the comic really well, but it's add to that underground outlaw comics madness and a slice of life and a slice of combined with this horror thing going on. 32 pages, really dug it. Instagram, you can go to Dan Hughes Art on Instagram and look at some of his stuff. But yeah, I'm going to watch out for this little crew. Good stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, nice one.
I'm going to jump in with a couple of like machine gun quick ones before passing it over to Dan and then doing my full recommend this week. Okay. First off, I want to say there was a bit of discussion about on episode 471 about Thank You, which we recommended without actually saying anything about.
Oh yeah, he's replied, isn't he? Yeah.
So Sean Gabarin, thank you for getting in touch again, Sean, and he talked. We had some discussions, if you go back and listen to the episode, about the cover and how that works. You know, does it work? When he explained it, it made complete fucking sense.
Totally clicked.
It totally.
It's hard. You can't really do it unless you have the physical version. We only had the digital one.
Yeah.
So.
But obviously, people wanted to know where you can get it. Well, you can get it now. It is available if you go to handwrittenentertainment.square.site. But if you go to acprecommends.com, where you'll find all the links to all of our previous
put a link in, is he, Craig? Well done, Craig.
Craig's dropped so you'll just scroll down and see Thank You on there. I just wanted to give that a shout out because that's. Don't worry, you'll hear about that book again probably at the end of the year. I caught up on a couple of series that I talked about, the issue ones recently. Remote Space, Cliff Rathburn's Remote Space, which it felt like I only talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Issue 2 is already out. So I read that this week. More absolutely gorgeous artwork. The tempo of the story slows down a little. You know, it's only like 4 issues, so it feels like there's a grand story going on. And I hope it's a nice little sort of package, the story. Do you know what I mean? Because the scope's so big that I'm a little nervous that the 4 issues may not do it the justice. But
go into a second series maybe. They tend to do that bit, don't they?
Yeah,
these days.
Yeah, and I know he's wanted to make this series for a long time. And if you get the book, there's loads of sketches. I mean, he says there's sketches, you know. Insane, but they're clearly like when he was doing character concepts and stuff like that. And if you've seen any of Cliff Rathburn's work from like Reaper or like Brit back in the day, he works with like Robert Kirkman a lot, and just amazing stuff. So Remote Space, do check that out. There's 2 issues now to jump on board. And Plastic, Death and Dolls.
Yeah, I read this yesterday.
Yeah, this is still firing on all cylinders. If anything, the story's grown a bit. You know, we're getting a little bit more deeper into the weeds, and I enjoyed this issue more than the first issue, and I enjoyed the first issue, but seeing this makings of a murderer, shall we say, the lovable psychopath who cuts people's heads off, and
but part of me thinks, he's made a friend.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that as I'm reading it as well.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. He's one of those things that this person is a psychopath that kills people. But it's got that classic. It's all right though. The people he kills are horrible people. It plays that line, doesn't it? I think that they are really treating that the people that he's absolutely brutally murdering are nasty people. But a bit of a reveal, a bit of a revelation that I think we saw coming, but it was satisfying to see what he keeps in his fridge. So that's all I'm going to say. But Death and Dolls, and still the guys are absolutely smashing it. You know, it's Wagner and is it Hilliard? Oh, I've forgotten. Forgive me. Daniel Hilliard. That's it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely on point with this crazy murderous universe. It's good fun. It's good, horrific fun. And so yeah, that's my quick one before I get stuck into my main one this week. But Dan, what have you got for us?
I read Where the Body Was by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Have you guys checked this out?
I haven't.
I haven't read this one.
Is this a recent one? They've done so many, I sort of lose track.
I've read most of them.
Came out December 23. So
no, I haven't read it quite up with this one yet.
This feels, reading Ed and Sean's work feels like that it's kind of equidistant between comics and sort of crime thriller novels.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it occupies a space there. Like, it wouldn't take much of a jump to push that kind of the stuff they're putting out into this being like a fiction title. So the synopsis for this one is: a boarding house full of druggies, a neglected housewife, a young girl who thinks she's a superhero, a cop who wants to be left alone, and a private detective looking for a runaway girl. These stories collide one fateful summer in Where the Body Was, a tale of love, murder in the suburbs, told from a dozen different viewpoints. Which the book starts off with a double-page spread of Pelican Road in the summer of 1984, where the guys have mapped out this block, and it's got a key of all the little houses and where people live, which is relevant because there's a body found very early on in the story. And you jump between different perspectives of the different characters living in this neighborhood, the ups and downs of their lives, and how they come together and interact with one another. And like that kind of blurb says, it's a neighborhood, there's quite a lot going on, and everyone's kind of got a bit of a dark secret and some shady shit going down. If you're kind of used to Sean Phillips' work before, very much kind of focusing on details, and the pictures of the suburbs is exactly like you can imagine this place being a real place. Perhaps it is, I'm not too sure, but it's very well observed, and interesting. It kind of, I can't imagine the story working with anyone else drawing it, to be honest. And Ed Brubaker's, the dialogue and the character interactions, the story structure, it's one of those books I've read and like, this is beyond my talents to be able to do. I couldn't write this book. It's fucking great. And just, it's really, it's on Global Comics.
I mean, they do everything together, those two, but you know, and it's that kind of creator relationship that you know, there's a synergy, isn't there? I think few creative partnerships in comics currently has that.
I know when a lot of words. I think there's the storytelling ability of them. I think is what counts for me in this. Yeah.
It's kind of tragic in this one because you get, it's like they're being interviewed after the fact of what happened, and it's like a recollection of them telling these stories. And some of the characters, like, their lives don't turn out too great. You get to know them over the 120 odd pages, and you're like, man, fucking hell, it didn't really work out too great for them. It's not that they got murdered or anything, but just like they didn't really have the fucking best of lives. And there's a lot of tragedy, and
it's sadder sometimes when that in a comic, isn't it? When they just amount to nothing.
Essentially,
also good that we care, because most comic characters we don't care about because they're not fleshed out in that way.
Yeah,
there's a couple of characters in it's just like, fucking hell, man. There's a very human part of yourself you can kind of identify with them, and for me at least, and I was like, oh, that's really sad. I really hope that people don't end up like that, but you know they do, and it's tragic. But honestly, a great read. I'd highly recommend checking it out.
Good one for to look at for storytelling. You know, if you want to see weaving these sort of complicated character narratives, I think because
building their own base of fandom and everything as well. I think
to go from maybe a somber tone like that, I just want to give a shout out to I tell you what, chaps, one of the things I get a kick out of reading, and I certainly like picking them out on Global Comics, is a lot of those sort of humor strips, those cartoonists that have got collections on there. Not necessarily ones that are like Instagram strips, but you know, the ones that are clearly we're getting the modern versions of the Far Side. You know, it's funny, as soon as you said that earlier, Tony, I thought, it's funny he's brought out the Far Side. You know, that witty comics. You know, they're just one and done strips. The coffee table, the book you take into the toilet, all of this sort of stuff. But just absolutely just brightens your day. And I discovered a new one, Pie Comics from Only Press. I delved into Only Press to try and find something this weekend, and there's a couple of collections of Pie Comics, who obviously has a following. This is from the cartoonist John McNamee.
Yeah. Okay.
He's got a very simplistic style. As it says on Global Comics, Pie Comics began as a college comic strip way back in the mid-noughts when flip phones roamed the earth. But after a shoulder injury forced cartoonist John McNamee to simplify his drawing style and improvise comics, Pie Comics evolved into the beloved strip it is today. He's a contributor to The Onion and The New Yorker, and each one of them is just like an absurdist sort of take on the day-to-day. It's just one of those. I had to mention it because I kept flicking through it, and the amount of times I was just, I laughed. You chuckle out loud. It's just that. Oh, you can tell if it hits the spot. So many humor comics as well try to hit that. If they can make you chuckle out loud
it's rare for me
in the real world. Yeah. Even if it's just a, just a small chuckle. And there was quite a few of these strips. There's a couple of collections on Global Comics, but like I say, it's Only Press, so you can get them on print and stuff. Only put out some nice books as well, I think, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's wit as well. It's not just churlish, silly humour. It seems slightly observational. There's two that I just wanted to highlight. There's a 6-panel strip. So these aren't Instagram books. These are, he's made like these little humour comics, and it's telling this story. This lad who's failed to catch a baseball, so he's binned his baseball stuff, and his father's talking to him about it. So you're seeing these little flashes of what happens. He misses the baseball gets hit, he misses catching it, he's binned his baseball stuff. But it says, his dad's talking to him, said, there are 2 ways to deal with mistakes. You see the boy missing the ball. You can be bitter and let them defeat you. The boy's binned all the baseball stuff. Or you can learn to grow from your mistakes. And the boy's got the baseball mitt and he's throwing the ball back up in the air. So next time you don't make them. And the panel is the boy catching the ball with a baseball mitt. And the final panel is the dad going, anyway, that's why you're not getting a little brother. It's just that little zinger. I was like, fucking, that's class. And there was another, which I think is one of the truest comic strips I've ever seen in my life. 2 panels, 2 widescreen panels. The first one just says, love in the movies. It's raining. 2 people kissing, and like one of them's like, I love you more than anything else in the world. It's romantic. And the second panel is love in real life. And there's a woman looking at this guy who's bending over with his ass to her, and she's going, well, I think the swelling's going down.
Oh, I saw this,
and it's so true. Yeah.
Where did I see that? Did you post it or something?
Yeah. No, I haven't posted it.
I saw that yesterday.
Yeah, but it's full of like class jokes. There's just another one here. There's a kid about to go to sleep and goes, Dad, can you check under my bed for monsters? Don't you know the only real monster is man? Think about it. And the dad leaves the kid in bed thinking about it. And then this guy creeps out under the bed going, that's right, So Pie Comics, Only Press, a great collection. I love books like this as well, because you can pick it up, read a few pages, have some genuine laughs, which we need in this crazy world we live in, and it's just social comedy as well. It just makes good stuff. So John McNamee appeared on my radar, and if you want to laugh, get it. So
reminds me of that joke with the sometimes like true love is like you end up seeing more of your partner's arsehole than they ever have. And he goes, thanks for that. Now for the bride's speech.
Yeah. Oh dear. One final thing I want to say about the book, actually, it did have a strip, him talking about like he hurt himself and he forced to, when he was trying to draw, and there was an example of like a badly drawn sort of person, and it was just really frustrating him, and he forced himself to sort of completely simplify it, and by doing that, the scope of what he could do absolutely opened up, which I thought was quite an interesting sort of like, as artists or creatives, sometimes we beat ourselves up too much, and if we take a step back and just simplify it, Yeah, you can just take the seatbelt
No,
off.
if you
and
take your
just-
stuff down to the bare bones, you can see whether it's working or not.
Yeah,
Like you can't hide with fancy colouring and shading and
absolutely.
People try.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And I often do it.
you always smash it, Dan. What else have you got, Tony?
So this is my last one. So Adam Falp's smoking bedroom. Let me show you a page. There you go,
Awesome.
which I can't reveal. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. A4 black and white, £5, quite a few pages. A good price. Inside cover it says, please steal. The Adam Falp's smoking bedroom. Please steal, reprint, and reproduce to your heart's content. No permission required. It's nice, isn't it?
That's lovely.
Yeah. It is really interesting, and it shows Falpy's growth as a storyteller. I didn't have anything to do with this one, so it's purely my boy Falpy's comic. But it's interlocking stories of street level and massively degenerate characters, but done with that Falpy sense of humour, that Falpy weirdness. So there's a violent shakedown in a bookies, one pit of it, and there's another one. A bloke goes along to he's like a drawing student, and he goes along to a life drawing session, and he's intimidated by the female nudity he wants to draw, and he can't draw, and he just draws this strange squiggly thing. But then it changes. So this changes direction a number of times purposely, and he decides he's got this dark obsession with this woman. He follows the model home and knocks at the door, but she opens the door and says, "Oh, I'm glad you came along. I was hoping you'd take my sort of winks and nods," and turns in, and then he gets tied up in there, and it all goes fucking very bleak in there. And then it overlaps with this sort of booze sodden sex. The picture I just showed you of the man having sex with an old lady, this private investigator, and he's hired to find someone, and we discover that interlocks with the robbery in the bookies and interlocks with the student following the woman home. I've described it as part Big Ron from Viz, part Johnny Ryan, and partly a narrative maze with overtones of the Beano. It's almost indescribable, and so it should be as an underground comic. And you know from what he's doing there that he's taking chances with the narrative format, and it works. It pays off in the end, which I think is the example of how things work sometimes. It's easy to say, oh, this is a complicated melange of a story, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't pay off and it doesn't work, then it's not good. But this most certainly does.
Nice.
There's no heroes.
Melange.
Thank you. There's no heroes or villains. Everyone is a little grimy, but strangely real.
Okay.
It covers the forgotten world that we have all been in. The forgotten world of pubs and racetracks and bookies and smoking and cheap booze and, loose women and men with no morals. And people are these twisted deviants, but they do live in a surreal landscape. But for me, it's almost realer than the ridiculousness we see of alto bio small press zines these days, with this sort of perfection imagined, this morality superiority that we see in a lot of comics these days. These people reek of being real more than pretty much anything else I've read for years, and I think that's really important to remember. It ends. There's no bullshit in it. There's not. It's just truth.
Yeah.
Albeit told
real.
in a fucking really weird story, but there's that in it. On the back, he says, so he's got a little advert on the back telling you what you should do with this comic, which is quite interesting. I'll read it to you. Give it to your new bird. Give it to the bloke doing bird. Bury it in your garden and let the men of the future discover the physical comic book medium. And then you got 23rd century hipster reading it. There you go. Or sneak it into your local comic book establishment and hide it in a long box, causing confusion and offence once it's found. There you go. How cool is that?
Sounds great. Yeah.
All done.
Who knows?
A4 comic. All done in a couple of weeks by Falpy, photocopied on his home printer. Although you never know it. And I think Tom in Gosh was asking him what printer he was using, because it's almost like newsprint feel. And a £5 for a massive comic.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Shows you can do it.
Yeah,
and he does
yeah.
it constantly. In fact, he gave me 2 new comics I didn't even know he made.
Mate, there's no
Personally.
bar for fucking making a comic. It's really that easy.
Yeah.
Just even if like Falpy's on the upper end of kind of producing that, but you can just get a couple of sheets of A4 and draw it on that and photocopy it. And
yeah, I love the earthiness of this. I love how it works. And that quote I mentioned earlier is by William James, and it's life is buzzing and blooming confusion, and it is. It's not this sort of perfect characters. Like, oh no, I'm so sad. It's actually fucking real people and tales of real life. You know, really interesting. So adamfalp.com. You can find a link to buy his stuff. Go and do that.
Also get that, and you get books like Set Against the Backdrop of Dangerously Changing Global Climate and Better Nice Guys.
You can get all kinds of comics out there,
Yeah.
and you should get all kinds of comics, and you should enjoy reading them. We hope you enjoy reading them. We hope you enjoyed this fun delve into the comic book medium, of which we'll do a few more of these. It's always fun when the three of us get together and talk comics.
Yeah,
I like
it was more there.
Yeah,
it's a weird one because we tend to get more listeners. It's just the three of us.
Yeah, why is that? Is it our dulcet tones? That was dulcet, not Dorset.
Maybe there's people listening for the cancellation. The stuff.
Yeah, people are desperate for me to say something like boobs or something, and then fucking Tony said boobs.
Tony, how dare you? You
How dare you?
But if you want to cancel us, there's several different ways you can do it.
That's true.
You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. In all seriousness, if you've got like a crowdfunding, if there's anything you want us to know, if you've got a new comic you want us to
tell us about it, we'll tell our listeners about it.
Yeah, your listeners.
Our listeners, your listeners, any listeners, anyone who fucking listens, to be honest.
Anyone. We'll just if anyone listens, we'll appreciate it.
So excuse me, do you hear about this comic? I'm just trying to put this purchase through the till. Can you?
Yeah, sorry mate, I'm waiting for a bus. Fuck off.
just having a shit.
Yeah, I often pass comics underneath. I said, mate, are you having a shit? Yeah, I'm having a shit, mate.
He slides underneath the cubicle.
He
slides underneath the cubicle.
My face comes up. All right.
Between your legs. Have you read this?
I put Sooty over the top. Yeah. And he's like, yeah.
God. High quality content. And thank you for listening. Yeah. You can follow us on social media at Awesome Comics Pod on Instagram, where we'll be posting up covers, we'll be posting up comics that we talked about, and generally trying to get some interaction. Please like us. And also we're on Twitter/X at the Awesome Pod, where we'll basically on social media. We'll
on the Slack they've been calling it Twix. I think that's funny. I quite like it too.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
Twix.
It is. Well done, you. And to join the Slack community, of course, get in touch with us. There's a wonderful group of people, lots of different channels, from art to tips to just general, just talking about comics you love. There's no shitty attitudes or anything like that. It's genuine conversations. So yeah, lovely group of people, and who knows, you might turn up at the next social event because of it.
This Friday, hopefully.
Yes, and thank you for listening to us, whether it's on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave a review. Helps get the word out about the show and everything we talk about on a weekly basis. If you listen to us on Spotify, comment, 5 stars, all that nonsense.
Very good stuff.
Yeah, just say nice things about us.
Or just ignore us like people do every week when we answer this.
Yeah, it's true. yeah, true. And you may have ignored us on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on a network that reveals the wisdom of Pete Dorey. So during a conversation earlier today about someone was mentioning the guilt they've got over the read pile, and let's face it lives in my heart all day long, that guilt. Pete, a bit of wisdom from Pete. He said, look at your unread books like a wine cellar. They'll be there to read at just the right moment. I like that.
That's wise words.
Wise words.
Cheers, Pete.
Has he got a wine cellar? Fucking posh bastard.
Probably. Posh, haven't he?
Yeah.
He's not posh.
And there he is, trying to relate to the common man. Anyway, love you, Pete. Where can people find us online, etc.? Tony?
They're on anything.com every Wednesday. Look in the review section because I'm doing tops and bottoms, where I talk about the current state of play in comics, what the best thing I've read is this week, and what the least favourite thing I've read is this week. And you might find something to enjoy. There's lots of links in there. It's been quite active in there recently. People clicking on links and buying books through there and stuff. Yeah,
always like and retweet it.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
And Dan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twix at Vanguard Comic, and you can read up to Vanguard issue 22, which finished this week, and I'm prepping 23 next year, which is.
Can I also say, so a bit late in the show, but happy birthday this week, Danny B.
Oh, cheers, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got some lovely gifts.
How does it feel like to be able to legally drink alcohol?
Septuagenarian.
Great.
Nice.
You get honesty on this show.
Yeah. I've got loads of comic books. Big game.
Nice.
Vince got me an absolutely awesome Snake Eyes figure. You got me a Booster Gold book. Got loads of other books and shit. Great.
I think Booster Gold's an easy buy because it's good, solid, fun comics.
Yeah.
Well drawn, well written. Yeah.
My wife's eyebrows were kind of going up and up every time I opened up a present. It was another graphic novel.
Yeah. It's like, it's my birthday. Look,
what are you
it's
going to
not
do with
my
that?
fault.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
You can. What you can do is you can follow me on social media at JesterDiablo. and make that noise when you do it.
Yeah.
And what else you should do is have a brilliant week. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. We really appreciate it as we roll on the way to 500. So catch us back next week as we talk about more comic topics. We ran out of topics. Sorry, Sooty, where can they find you on social media? There you go. So join us back next week where we'll be talking about more comics. Great in indie and small press stuff you can check out. So we hope you're happy, healthy, and doing well. Because Sooty, you love them, don't you? I'm not gonna I can't put this episode out now that you said that.
Thought he lifted his kilt up.
That is an absolute disgrace. We're going to get kicked off iTunes for this. So from
the planet.
So from everyone at Awesome HQ and that degenerate bear that's sitting with Tony right now, have a brilliant week, read loads of comics, and as always, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
So he didn't say it. I can't believe. Well, I'm just going to cut it there because he's just not putting the work in.
Must do better.
He said it.
Oh,
I said it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.